Hey guys, it's Matt. Today we're going to talk about one of my most hotly anticipated pieces. It's from one of my favorite movies, and it's my favorite character. This is the Iron Studios Thor quarter scale statue from Avengers Endgame. Let's get into it. Alright, now anytime we get one, I like to talk about the art box that these things come in. Now, this box is a little bit more compact than you're used to for a statue of this size, and it's really nicely done. The space is well used, and it keeps the box size small so that when you put away the art box and the shipper, it doesn't take up too much of your storage space. That's a feature that I think is pretty valuable, and it's often overlooked. Now, the front of this box has what looks to be a very nice photograph of Chris Hemsworth as Thor from Endgame. But this is not a photograph. This is a digital painting. In addition to the painting of Thor, you have Avengers Endgame logo with the Marvel indicator right here at the top, and the title of this statue and character, which is Thor, right here. This is from the Legacy Replica line, which is their movie statues in quarter scale. On the left-hand side of the box, you have a photo of the statue and the Iron Studios logo at the bottom. On the back, you have this iconic logo that indicates that this is Thor. On the bottom, you have the hashtag for Iron Studios. On the other side, you have another photo of the statue. Now, this is the exact same photo that's on the other side. This would have been a neat place to show the statue in one of its other configurations, which is not holding Mjolnir here, but actually resting both hands on Stormbreaker. It would have been neat to see that on both sides, but this is the direction they went, and it's just fine. On top, you have the nice blue top with the Avengers logo, and again, Thor's name. On the bottom, you have the copyright information, the logos and things like that, but there is no numbered placard here. So this is not a number match box. Some companies actually number the box as well as the statue inside. Iron Studio hasn't done that. It doesn't really affect much, but sometimes it's nice to have. Next, let's get into the base. Now this statue comes with a diorama sculpted base. This depicts a portion of the Avengers complex in upstate New York after it has been attacked by Thanos in his ship by his army. You can see at the bottom here, you can see some of the underground plumbing that goes in here, cross sections of the dirt, grass that's fallen below the ground level, and sculpted grass on top with indentations for Thor's feet, and Stormbreaker, which goes right here. On the bottom, you have just a simple Iron Studio style black placard with Avengers Endgame logo, the name of the statue, the Legacy Replica line, Iron Studios, Marvel, and then right here is your numbering. This is number 391 of 1,700 statues in this edition. Then you have the copyright Marvel and made in China. On the back, you have a small section of the Avengers complex, window frame, and some glass. This is like a PVC resin. It's not super brittle. Sometimes when these are cast in clear resin, that's very fragile, but not in this case, which is a nice touch by Iron Studios to make sure this statue is a little bit more durable. Next, we're going to put Thor in here. Now, Thor comes just like this in the box, head and body, legs all attached. Now, he does come in his own clamshell in the front of this styrofoam packer. The back contains the statue's base. So it's in a trapdoor on the back side of the styrofoam pack-in that comes in this box. Make sure you open up the trapdoor on the back to pull out this statue base, set it up, then flip it over, cut your tape, and open this to get Thor out. Otherwise, he might fall out, and you want to be very careful that that doesn't happen. Now, he fits into the base with a large square metal peg that goes up into his leg and this rectangular key. He only goes in one way, and his left foot sits in the indentation, and his right foot is free on top of the base. Next, we'll put in his Stormbreaker and his right hand. Now, here's the solid resin cast Stormbreaker and Thor's right hand resting on top. This Stormbreaker is highly detailed with runes all around the backside, battle damage, and some markings all around here to show that it's been in use. We've got Groot's arm forming the handle, goes all the way to the floor, and this is a nice heavy piece, solid cast resin, and it fits right into here, a key on the bottom, which I like to put the key in the base first, and then you rock his hand right in here, and that's affixed with a magnet. Make sure everything's securely set, because you don't want that falling over and losing your axe onto the ground. Next, we're going to add his left arm and his left hand. These come as two separate pieces in the box. All you have to do is fit that left hand into the left arm. It holds in place with a magnet. And then the left shoulder goes into this left side key. One tricky thing here, there's actually sculpting that shows his hands resting on top of each other and they will actually indent into each other. And you want to do your best to try and get that to fit up properly. That gives him a natural, human-looking pose, and there he is. Now this is Thor holding just Stormbreaker. You can use this by itself, or you can actually pair this configuration with the other statues from this line, which is Captain America, Iron Man, and even Thanos, if you want to have them facing off against somebody else. But if you want to display Thor with Stormbreaker and Mjolnir at the same time, you have an option for that. The configuration for Mjolnir is a straightened left arm that hangs at his side, and this left hand holding Mjolnir. Now, this is all molded into, not molded, it's all assembled into one piece when you get it in the box. This Mjolnir is a hard plastic, so it's not too heavy as to not pull this magnetized hand out of the arm and fall to the ground. If this were solid resin, there'd have to be a different solution here. But this is how it is, and it looks fantastic. It does have a bit lighter feel than you would think from a statue of this type, but the detail is fantastic, and Mjolnir looks very convincing and very heavy. Go ahead and take that left arm out. Be careful to make sure the hand doesn't stay behind so you don't lose it. And then you just fit the left arm in again, and Mjolnir hangs right at his side. Now, this configuration is fun when you don't have the other statues in the line and you want Thor to just be by himself holding his battle weapons. Makes him look very imposing, and he's just a lot of fun to look at with all this stuff going on. Now that we have the statue all assembled, I can give you a few of my impressions about the whole thing. Now, this depiction of Thor at the end of Avengers Endgame is pretty iconic for me within the MCU. We're seeing Thor at the end of one of his main story arcs after he's sort of beat himself up after not killing Thanos and saving the billions of people that were killed or dusted. He's now gotten back his confidence, and he's called upon the power of Thor, and he's become Thor, the god of thunder. Now, he has still the sort of thicker body style that he has from the beginning of the film, but he's all regaled out in his armor head to toe with his Stormbreaker and his trusty Mjolnir that he's recovered from the past. Now, the story that's told by this is one of resolution in the face of almost certain death, as he stands on his broken Avengers complex. He's ready to fight regardless. We see details from his past, such as his amber artificial eye on the right side here, coupled with his natural blue eye on the left. We've got the scar from his battle with Hela. We've got his braided beard, so his unkempt beard, because he wasn't taking care of himself. Once he takes on the powers of the God of Thunder, his beard becomes this strong Norse braided neat thing. His hair is flowing in the wind. His armor covers his muscles. He's got this really cool looking Norse leather gauntlets on here. And actually those are van braces, I'm sorry. He's got his leather van braces on here. And then he's got his hand resting on Stormbreaker, which has Groot's very detailed wood looking solid cast resin handle that goes all the way to the ground. Now, this is a fully sculpted piece, but all of these different textures actually look like the fabrics are supposed to represent. We've got this heavy stitched 1, 2, 3, 4 layered leather. There's quilting along the thighs here, right here and along the front, and then different ribbing along the knees where you'd see reinforcements. This is all sculpted just like the costume that you see in the film. You got these hard metal and leather boots looking. It's all polystone, but this is all looking like the things that they are meant to represent. And then you've got this diamond plate scale mail on his arms here. It's all well shaded, well painted, very nice. You've got weathering and mud and dust and dirt all on his legs here, and it matches the mud and dirt that's on the base here. So you can see that he's actually part of his environment. One thing that I don't love too much is that some of the weathering on the boots here is a little bit mechanical. So it could have been done a little bit more naturally, but it's okay. It reads as what it's supposed to. I have no guess that it's supposed to be mud, but I would have liked if it was just a little bit more random throughout. It's a small gripe, but one I thought worthy of pointing out. His cape is fully sculpted, but this is a flexible PVC type material. Now, in my mind, that's a huge plus. A cape this large and long, with being anchored only at his shoulders, would be at a high risk for breakage. And if it were to break right here, that would be very hard to hide that repair. very hard to replace because this is all assembled as one piece. So this is a nice solution that makes sure that this cape, while being sculpted and keeping the intent of the designers in its shape and flow, will be durable and probably outlast all of us. The only small gripe I have for the sculpted cape, you can actually see the patterning of the fabric texture that was applied when this was being sculpted in 3D. There's a couple artifacts, lines that go all the way across. They're very, very subtle. Most people won't notice them, but they did pop out to me, and I think they're worth noting. They're on the back of the statue, so they're not something you're going to have to worry about much. Otherwise, this fabric looks very convincing. His face and his portrait of Chris Hemsworth here is quite impressive. There's multiple gloss levels put on his skin and his beard and his eyes, so it all looks very natural. I would have liked to see just a little bit more shading on the skin tones, just because at this scale, some subtleties in this shade don't come through as nicely as I would like them to. But again, that's a minor gripe. Overall, this is very realistic looking, and the skin almost has a translucent look to it, kind of like real human skin, where there's a little bit of subsurface scattering that shows up in this resin. These multiple gloss levels, multiple materials, all come together to make a deceptively complex piece. The more you look at it, the more you find. Now, the pose that they've gone with here, this sort of resolute, determined, and strong stance is just very satisfying. It's the penultimate museum pose with a little bit of what I like to call potential energy all wrapped up in here. This line is my favorite pose amongst the Captain America and the Iron Man. They're all fantastic poses. This one just speaks to me in a lot of very subtle ways, and it's very satisfying. I love this option that they included. So you've got multiple display options with Thor here. So they included the Mjolnir in his left hand if you display him by himself. But if you have Captain America, and Captain America is, spoilers, wielding Mjolnir, then he's not going to have two Mjolnirs. He's not going to have one in his hands. So they give you the option of you to rest Thor's left hand on top of Stormbreaker here, which we saw in the film he actually tends to prefer. So I love this stance here of him just standing and holding Mjolnir, and the sculpt, the way it works with both of these arms, it's just brilliant sculpting and brilliant engineering that this looks natural in both configurations. The way this whole thing works together on the base is pretty impressive as well. You can see right here the way that there's this overhang with some of the underground showing gives you a sense of almost levitation here, and it just makes this static pose subtly dynamic, and it took me a minute to realize kind of how that was making me feel. Make sure you have it on a sturdy surface because it is a little bit, it's not teetery, it's not unstable feeling, it's just something to be aware of if you're dusting or anything like that, that you want to make sure that you don't knock him over that way. Let's give you a 360 view here. Now, one thing I always cover is this a must buy? Now, this statue is over $700, and he is available on Sideshow still, and he is part of a quartet of statues, including this one, Captain America, and Iron Man, as well as a very large Thanos, and all together they make up a fantastic diorama. Now, if you're a fan of the MCU, if you're a fan of Thor from the MCU, I do think this is a must-buy. There's not a better depiction of this version of Thor in this scale at any price. I think if you are a fan of Thor in general, there might be better options that are more comic book accurate. Maybe they have a few other features that you're looking for. But with this movie in mind, this is the statue to get. I think the Chris Hemsworth depiction of Thor is iconic enough that he deserves a place in my collection. And this portrait is spot on. It looks exactly like Chris Hemsworth. The eyes have a lot of life in them. The beard looks very convincing. The hair, which is fully sculpted, flows very naturally. Just a very satisfying piece overall. So If you're on the fence about getting any of these quarter scale Iron Studios, I think you're safe in making the investment and adding them to your collection. They look fantastic in a lineup of statues, and they're just a lot of fun for people to come and look at in your collection. They're easy to recognize, they know them from the movie, and it's just a real crowd pleaser and a conversation starter. If you want to get them, you can get them on Sideshow right now. Just go and search out Avengers Endgame Thor, and he'll pop up. If you really want to go big or go home, this is the one to get. Happy collecting.
Hey, did you like that video? Be sure to subscribe by clicking the S icon on your screen and click that bell icon to be notified whenever a new video is posted. If you'd like more info on the items featured in this video, click the link provided under Product Info. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to let your geek side show.